Water.
Earth.
Fire.
Air. This is... What were you saying? This is Yip Yip.
Hooray!
An Avatar podcast.
Maybe I should just start with the sound of music. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, da.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, duh. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, duh.
That's the Tillamook version. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, duh.
Why are you so down on Tillamook?
I don't know.
I mean, the cheese is good.
And Avatar.
And tofu. Yeah, we asked Troy what kind of shampoo he was using, and he proudly said Dove.
And for those of you that don't know Dove,
It's kind of like Dove.
it's exactly like Dove.
It's got a little bird.
Got some dove in me.
Tomato, potato.
Now, Katie's accusing me of using really good hair gel, hairspray.
I didn't say really good.
I think the question was, what's in your hair?
Why do you look like you got shit hairspray or hair gel in your hair?
No, just stuff. There's just stuff.
My hair is sticking up.
Your hair is like combed over. It kind of has some little look, like a little bit of hold. And it's true. There is nothing in your hair. So I don't know. Maybe it's just that cut.
And then the way I like my haircuts, I got a couple of bumps on my head. They just stick right through the hair.
I also have bumps on my head.
Are you
What
like
is
a
that?
cartoon character? Like Tom and Jerry? Like you get a bump on the head?
Look how it's speed bumps in our hair. Yeah, we're like those characters.
But where does it come from? Mom or dad?
Unfortunately, folks, I feel like we're actually...
Troy's getting real close to the mic. He's like, so we're going to take it into the midnight hour now, ladies and gentlemen.
This is the late Avatar podcast show.
It's 1:30 in the afternoon.
All right.
Yeah, but some of those shows I'm sure are recorded and then played late.
That's true. They are recorded and played late.
Come on now. Like the late show with James Corden. Like, how late can you
James
go?
who? What's his name?
James Corden.
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 How do you say it?
Corden.
Okay, whatever. What are we doing here?
Corden.
Welcome back to Yip Yip Hooray, an Avatar podcast. It's me, Jordan.
Thank you. Hello, I'm here.
Hi, you.
Hey, you.
What? I mean, who are you?
Who
What
are
do you
you?
have to say? My name's Caddy. Because I'm Caddy. Wow.
And this handsome gentleman with the hair product across from us is...
Troy?
He says with a question mark.
I think it is.
Try.
I thought it's...
What?
The window for the
Troidle.
joke is closed.
Yeah. And
I don't know. You ask half the people I used to work with, they look at me and they say, "Hey, Trevor."
I get Justin a lot.
Trevor?
Trevor. I look like
Like people just see the T and everyone's kind of like...
Yeah.
No,
ignores
it's the
rest.
TR and then a vowel, and you assume it's Trevor.
And then some people just see the Y at the end of my name. They're like, "Oh, hey, Kyle."
What?
They just get so far off. Hey, Trevor, Tyler, Kyle. Hey, man.
Hey, man. Hey, Katie, do you ever get any other names?
Nope, never.
Well, as we've addressed, Katie is one of 7,000 Katies in the Tillamook area. So this episode, we watched Book 3, Chapter 3, The Painted Lady, and Chapter 4, Sokka's Master. So, Painted Lady, what do we think about this?
I didn't hate it.
I thought it was okay. It did as much for the story, in my opinion, as The Great Divide did. Didn't really drive the story forward.
I think no story
Right.
progress happened. Plot pretty much just stalled. But there was some good character growth with Katara, I guess.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I think it's nice that she's taken charge more and was obviously very disturbed by these people that were being affected by the polluted water and was like, yeah, I mean, it was disturbing where Sokka was like, yeah, just like look away and don't do anything about it. And it was nice that she was like, no, I'm not going to not do something.
Yeah, her line was, I will, never turn her back on those who need me. Which I thought was good. And I think we've seen this from Katara's character ever since the Imprisoned episode, where she rallies the Earthbenders who were trapped on that like oil rig thing back in Book 1. And so Katara's always had this in her of like wanting to fight injustice and wanting to help people who are unable to help themselves. And I think that probably stems from how helpless she felt when the Fire Nation came for those raids and took her mother away or killed her mother. We haven't found out yet in the show.
Yeah, no, I got some really strong Wonder Woman vibes this episode from Katara. It was actually a bit of a tearjerker for me, personally, just because she was actually at the right place at the right time to help these people out. And so she took the opportunity, despite it going against Sokka's mission. And I'm really proud of Katara for being MVP this episode.
Funny you talk about Sokka's mission. Like, I don't know. This is like the most anal I think Sokka's been in a while. Like, and I don't know if they just made his character like that to serve as some jokes. Because at one point he like has that scroll of what the schedule is going to be for like the next few days. And what that is, it's actually like the production crews. Like, it's a real schedule it's very meta. It's like actually their schedule. And so he's like checking it out. I don't know. It was a weird joke. Mm-hmm. I wasn't happy about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that it was nice to see. I don't know if it was nice to see, but the effects of pollution and how, contaminated water affects people. And it's something that people have turned a blind eye towards. But, yeah, I mean, so I was kind of happy that they tackled it a little bit.
It is interesting that for a show so dedicated to the order of the natural world, that we really haven't tackled much of that in the series, like the devastations that happen to nature. I think, in my mind, the closest thing we've come to that is when Heibai was like destroying the forest in the winter solstice episodes. Other than that, we haven't really discussed like nature necessarily, and so now book 3 we finally get like a Fern Gully episode.
They also had this moment where, I don't know, somebody, maybe it was Sokka and Aang, where it was like, oh, Katara, get over it, and she has this like scowl on her face, but it looks like,
that's like a very standard, like the the vein,
a scar or something.
It was like a vein. That's a vein.
2 veins crossing over each other. They do that a lot to a lot of cartoon characters to let you legitimately realize that they are truly frustrated with the situation.
It didn't come across in that way to me. I was like, what's happening with her face? Like, I didn't know if they drew. I mean, it just like, it took me a second to realize that was supposed to be some sort of an expression.
And it's because you're not like super well versed in cartoons, probably.
Probably.
But I will say this. They overdid it a little bit with the animation in this episode, with the facial expressions and all that stuff. I was like, ugh. To me personally, I did not appreciate the animation work in this episode.
Thanks, moi.
Thank you,
And
guys.
I thought we were done with Dr. Movie.
You know what else I didn't appreciate in this episode? Was when Aang goes and finds the painted lady, and he's like, oh, you're very pretty for a spirit, and like, na-na-na, like kind of coming onto the spirit. And he's like, oh, Katara? Like, get out of here.
He's like, oh, don't mind me. I wasn't coming on. I promise, Katara, you're the one I have feelings for the most. Yeah, it was kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
Kind of.
No, I was not into that at all.
Not a good joke.
I think it was a joke.
You're very pretty for a spirit, because most spirits I meet are not very pretty. I was like, wow.
Which I do think the joke there is like a lot of the spirits aren't very attractive, but I think there was a better line there than just having to compliment her on her looks.
Well, I think that's a problem just in society, right? It's like, oh, you're a female, so obviously I have to comment on your attractiveness. And it's like, that's not necessary.
What about Yue? She became a spirit.
Yeah, and no one needs to comment.
No.
She's the moon. Leave her alone.
Okay, what's up with the real painted lady? Because we're assuming, the actual painted lady at the end of this episode. Was she like trapped in the polluted river, kind of like in Spirited Away when the river spirit comes and he's like all goopy gloppy from all the pollution and he isn't able to be free until they kind of remove the pollution from his body? Is that what's going on with the painted lady?
That sounds nice.
Yes.
I mean, that would make sense.
So she was like free finally.
Probably.
And so the painted lady is really interesting because she's like actually this water spirit in this Fire Nation village. And so I think that's interesting that they're kind of worshiping this water deity in the fire. And so I think that's a sign that, yes, the world isn't as insular as the Fire Nation would like you to believe. And there is room for other cultures and other things besides fire within the Fire Nation.
Well, that's right. You have this like political movement and like the military, and that's the face of the Fire Nation right now. But right, then you just have average people that coexist with the other nations and don't really care and just want to live in peace.
Yeah, because I don't think that the village, they didn't seem like they were going to like grab their torches and pitchforks when they found out Katara was a waterbender. So there's no hate there from like the average citizens, aside from mistrust of like, oh, you deceived us.
Says Doc / Shoe.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
whoever his name is, like he's been trying to
Bushi.
Bushi. He's been trying to trick them this whole time.
That was my brother. He's a little crazy.
His nose is getting longer by the episode.
Okay, you two, were you into Dakshu Bushi?
I thought he was a wasted character. I just think the writers got lazy with that one. Just kind of like, they kind of showed what the condition of the villagers were in through Bushi, but at the same time, like the episode could have done without Bushi. Like more jokes from the main characters, and you would have been just fine.
But I guess it was like to take away the heaviness of the village. Or it's like, oh, these people are really desperate and really poor condition. And then we're going to have this
wacky, crazy character.
Yeah, to kind of take off some of that weight. And because, it's a Nickelodeon show, so gotta have some of that.
And there's like that delicate balance that Avatar needs to walk. And I think sometimes they have to overcompensate for their heavier episodes by like doing these like throwaway gags.
Right.
What they could have done, I thought would have been incredible is since they said it was a factory that made material for the Fire Nation. What they could have done was they could have shown raw material going in, show like the process of what it takes to make equipment for the Fire Nation instead of just blew up a random factory just because it belonged to the Fire Nation.
Mm-hmm.
So did you want like an after-school special, like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, when they're like, oh, let's go into the Fire Nation factory. What are they making?
Yeah.
It's like jet skis.
No, I mean, that makes sense to me, that there could have been more, you could have seen the process and how, in how these factories, like how these rivers get polluted, like how this actually happens in real life. And
Right.
yeah, and like what, and was there another solution there besides just destroying the factory?
Being an eco-terrorist.
Right. Could they have done something to help filter out the pollution
and create more
the
harmony?
Right. So yeah, was I really into Katara and Aang going and destroying everything? I don't know.
But I think part of it is like the Fire Nation is like a militaristic entity, is like still viewed as like being fundamentally pretty evil, and so if you could cripple them, I think that's going to do a lot more for your cause than to just like create harmony, because they're still going to be making these like weapons of war.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do think destroying it was a good solution there. I wasn't interested in like the villain guy, like Scarface, who showed up.
Who was very intense. Okay, but I was into the team effort to like save the village when like everyone got on board. And then, it was like, okay, Appa's doing his little noise and Toph is moving the rocks, getting like the thumps, and then
we pan over to Sokka.
Sokka's on the pan flute or something. I don't know. And he's like, anyway.
Yeah.
It was really,
That was pretty special.
I mean, yeah, it was like kind of emotional. I was into that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Then here comes the painted lady, scary spirit.
and like scary Aang like crawling underneath the dock, blowing wind.
Okay, this is whatever, and forgive me for this,
It's
but
like Spider-Man, like how's he doing that?
he's got really great upper body strength. Okay, so Katara walks over Aang.
I was thinking the same thing though with Aang. Like, how is he doing that? Like,
Right.
didn't look like he was like connecting or grabbing on anything, and he was like facing downward towards the river. Like, if he was like, I don't know, his stomach facing upward, maybe he been grabbing onto the wood, but
Yeah.
I was like, what the heck? Like,
yeah, I call BS.
yeah. That's where this episode was like, I was like, okay, we're getting a little too hokey with our powers.
Okay, so another part of this episode is that this is the first time, aside from Azula, that we've seen a female firebender.
Oh.
Which is weird. I mean, we've even seen a female airbender. We've seen a female airbender before we've seen a female firebender, aside from Azula.
Well, what do you need to see female benders for?
Well, so it's really interesting. It's almost like they had to like course correct by make a trivia out of it. They're like, oh, well, the female firebenders, they have to stay in the homeland. And so even like in the colonies or something, like we couldn't have had some of that. Like, wouldn't it have been interesting if Zhang Zhang had been a woman?
There's a lot of things. I mean, there is room to have a redo. And I mean, again, it's like Avatar is pretty good, but there is definitely room for improvement for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So also in this episode, this is the third time in the series where a main character has taken on an alias to achieve some exterior goal they're trying to achieve. The first is Zuko being the Blue Spirit. The second is Toph being the Blind Bandit. And then, aside from Aang, like pretending to be whatever. The third is Katara becoming the Painted Lady to help these people. So I think it's interesting, the idea of aliases, much like superheroes.
Yes.
Well, it's
Also-
interesting that she was like, oh, I didn't go at it with the intent to be the Painted Lady, that she was just trying to be a rando helping.
Yes.
And I don't know about you guys, but it was really satisfying at the end when they were cleaning the river. For me, I was like, oh yeah, it's like so dirty and they're cleaning the river. And then it just looked really nice.
How long were they there cleaning that river up?
I think it was probably like the chakras, it just takes a couple minutes.
Yeah, like between Aang and Toph, like they might have taken about 10 minutes max.
Do you think Aang bended at all doing that?
He
I
bended the water.
did the Aang was seen bending water?
I saw him.
Okay.
Toph was sitting there holding the mud to
Right.
separate it. So
Isn't that interesting that Aang would kind of reveal himself in that way, because he doesn't look like someone from the Water Tribe if you knew like what those people looked like.
But they probably don't.
That's true. They're pretty dumb. Just look at Shu.
Get out of here.
Okay, that guy. I think there was like a better joke there. I think it would have been really funny had another guy had come up and then you find out they are like twins or something. Like,
Yeah, I agree. Instead of the illusion, it's like, no, I'm just crazy. It's like, right, that if you could have, you were right, that there was like triplets or something.
Yeah.
or there's like more. There's like 8 of them. Like, wouldn't that just like ridiculous?
Yeah, it definitely
that
would
would've been funny.
better.
we got the 7 dwarves going on here.
Yeah, that would have been hilarious. I would have.
We got Doc, Shu, Mumpy, Grumpy, Dopey,
Mumpy,
Mumpy Grumpy?
I
You
hate
can't rip off Grumpy.
Mumpy.
Bumshi, Bushi. Like,
No.
All right, rhymes. Okay,
Okay.
so the things that were bumping in that river were like freaking me out. Like the mutated fish with the 2 heads.
Everything was dripping gunk.
Like I feel like the clams looked so gross. Like I would never put those in my mouth ever. I mean, they were generating mud.
Okay, and it is different, but yeah, we have been to some rough little fish markets that had flies flying around them and like where the stuff's looking a little questionable. So I mean, I was like, yeah, this is believable.
Yeah, I mean, when we were in Thailand, we were on an island, and the people we were staying with were like, "Oh, let's go to the market and let's get mackerel or something." And so we had to go to the market with these people. Their names were Ya and Ya. It was maybe husband and wife. Ya, the man, was probably about as big as my thigh. Ya, the female, was much bigger than my thigh.
So I got to ride with Big Ya.
And I rode with a little Ya, and I outweighed little Ya like 2 to 1. And so I'm like just like straddling Ya on the back of his motorbike. My feet are dangling off the side. Like I'm doing the best I can not to like keep him steady like I'm a pair of training wheels on this motorbike.
No, but you kept putting your feet down and he kept telling you to like keep your feet up. And so you're like irritating him because you kept putting your feet down. It's like when you're trying to ride a bike and someone in the back keeps putting their feet down. Yeah,
Hey,
it was like that.
I was so scared.
That was you just had to trust Ya.
I did not. And then, so we go to this fish market, and I don't know. I feel like we picked like the headless mackerel that had like the most flies on it. I was like, oh no.
But you just gotta trust. It's gonna be just fine.
And then we trusted Ya.
And Ya.
Okay, so the one thing about this episode, I think this is my least favorite Book 3 episode, so I'm really happy we're done with it. Part of the reason is that there's no Iroh or Zuko action coming on. Like, we get nothing in the Fire Nation capital. And so we're just kind of like stuck with the kids. I feel like Aang's kind of reverted back to like making dumb jokes, and it's hard when like Katara has to take center stage. Like the boys have to be just imbeciles. Like that's like what has to happen. And so that's kind of frustrating. Like they can't all be kind of competent and have Katara be in charge. Glad that mess is over.
I'm glad that mess is over too.
All right, Painted Lady.
On to something better. Sokka's Master. Where we're introduced to Piandao, who, let's get into some trivia about Piandao. He apparently was born to 2 legendary firebending masters, as the lore goes. He had no bending ability, and so instead he has become, quote-unquote, the greatest sword master in Fire Nation history.
Okay, well, I want to go back to the beginning where they're laying there and they're looking at the shooting stars or the meteor shower or whatever's going on. And, and Toph's like, oh, haven't seen something once.
Haven't seen something 1,000 times.
Right. So then, like, the meteor hits and...
Which would have destroyed everything. Let's remember how destructive a meteor can be.
Right. But they're like, okay, we got to put this out before it burns the village. Just kind of nonchalant. And, and then Sokka's so deflated, like, I can't do anything. I was like, is this like season 1? What's happening right now? Yeah. And then Sokka's got to babysit Momo.
It seemed like a huge, like, reversion of Sokka's character, for sure.
But then we see Iroh's, like, working out.
Okay, what was that for you, Troy?
Oh, that was funny. I was just like, did Iroh give up completely?
Yeah, because when we see Iroh, he's, like, leaning against the cell wall, like, drooling. It looks like he has, like, gone down, like Iroh's dead.
Yes. And then the guard comes in, mocks Iroh. As soon as the guard leaves, I was like, ha, you only think I'm giving up. Starts munching down his
He
rice.
says in his mind.
Yeah.
Okay, but that guard, it's like so rude. I don't know. Like, just stop with the crummy comments, right?
That's
like, I don't know.
that's the psychology of prison, though. It's like once somebody's locked up, of course the guard's gonna take full advantage of it verbally.
Troy did 12 hard years.
And THS. Or
Oh,
the
God.
talk.
You went to THS for 12 years?
super
Super
senior.
duper senior.
Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about the meteor shower. So if there's a comet that comes every 100 years that imbues firebenders with immense power, why doesn't a meteor shower, what, does that not have any ability on anybody?
Nope.
Does that not make an earthbender more powerful? What has to happen for an earthbender to become super powerful?
Nothing. They're already max
earthquake.
power.
They're overpowered. I want to see some celestial event happen that makes an earthbender be able to, like, move a continent, Kyoshi style.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
I was just gonna say, I think for Fire Nation it's these comets that make them stronger. I feel like for Earth Nation it might be earthquakes that make them stronger.
So
Kind of weird.
So, Troy, what did you think about Sokka being all emo, being like, I can't do anything. You guys have all the power, and kind of moping around?
This felt like the wrong season for that episode. Like that could have been like the beginning of season 2 rather than hold on until season 3. Like he's just now realizing he's hanging out with a bunch of benders and he doesn't have a special ability. Like this whole time he's just been cracking jokes, following a map and planning with it. And it's this episode he gets to decide that he's like, I'm not an earthbender, a firebender, or an airbender. I'm nothing.
I'm
Like,
a meat bender.
I'm like looking at Sokka like, it's a little late, buddy. Like,
Well, it's interesting because if we look at Sokka's character at the beginning of the series, he is kind of anti-bending in a way. He's like, you and all this magic and water and so I feel like he's kind of discredits bending, and it seems like the creators maybe forgot to give Sokka that kind of development of giving him like a power or a tool that he can utilize, because he's already like super proficient with boomerang, water tribe goods, and it seems like they're kind of shoehorning it almost into season 3, but I think it's fine. It kind of goes along with this storytelling trope, like in popular culture, where you have like superhero stories, and then you always have to have like the one character who's like the regular person. But then eventually, if those stories go on long enough, usually like the regular person that's hanging around the superpowered people, they usually get some sort of power. Like in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like the normal friend ends up getting like a power like in a later season. And part of it's to like give that character more meaning and something more to do. I always liked in Static Shock. Anybody ever watch Static Shock?
I've never even heard of Static Shock.
Phenomenal DC animated series about Static, the African-American superhero who can control lightning.
I knew it. Okay.
So good. So like his buddy in like I think season 2 all of a sudden like gets a superpower, and so then you get the sidekick who's no longer just like the buddy who can crack jokes, but can like be more useful. But with Sokka, he's already been super useful, and I don't think a sword is gonna make him feel any better when a natural disaster happens and he has to sit there and babysit Momo. Like
Yeah. Okay. So Sokka goes and knocks on this master's door.
Oh, that's Master Piandao.
I'm totally
we learn about
butcher that name.
We learn about Piandao from Piandao is a Chinese word for a type of sword.
Mm.
Piandao. But we learn about Piandao from the armory that they go to.
Right.
Because Sokka wants a toy.
So that's got to be the most American in pronunciation of that word then.
Piandao.
Piandao.
Okay.
Okay.
So in that moment,
Piandao.
I want to come back to Piandao. I didn't mean to bulldoze you, Katie. But when they're in the armory, Aang comes out in like that grotesque armor.
That was like No.
So there's a story there.
I don't wanna
So
hear it.
Nickelodeon, when they wanted to make toy products for Avatar: The Last Airbender, obviously it was like the mid 2000s, and so when they made toys, everything had to be like super masculine and have all these like crazy gadgets. And so one of the proposed toys was this like Aang in battle armor, and everyone was like, "Why would we do that?" And so this is them making fun of that. But they eventually like discontinued making the toys because no one was really buying them. But also they weren't making any female characters into action figures. It was
And to
only
add to that, Toy Story. That's right. I didn't even think about that pun until I said it. To add to that story about the toys. The movie came out. It was called Bigger, Faster, Stronger. It was talking about steroid abuse in certain industries, sporting industries, and they said that when Star Wars first came out,
Star Wars.
No,
Troy just can't not.
No, I just can't. Luke Skywalker's toy was like, he had his like black shirt on and his blue lightsaber, and he was regular sized. Well, then they rebooted the whole toy Star Wars series in the early 2000s, and the new Luke Skywalker was just like beefed out to the extreme. Like, still had a lightsaber, but he was like shirtless, 6-pack, bulging muscles, and they're like, we have a toxic masculinity epidemic going on across America. So.
Yeah, it was really unfortunate that they never made any female characters into toys, because when you watch the show, there's such a female-driven characters, and some of the most powerful characters in the show are the females. And so if you just do only the male characters, you get Sokka, Aang, and Zuko, and that's pretty much what you're going to be going with. And so, yeah, there just wasn't any action figures for the longest time.
So they never made any...
I think now that we've become more woke as a society, there are now like kind of collectibles that have been made
They
since.
better made Toph by now. Should have sold way more.
Her name is Toph, Troy.
Get it together,
Her name is
Troy.
Toph. You have watched the show. They say the name. You're not reading a book.
We're on season 3, Troy.
Oh, God.
She's been around for almost 20 episodes.
I'm so sorry, our listeners.
Okay. So what I was going to say about Sokka going and, I don't know,
Knocking on the door.
knocking on the door, meeting the master, and kind of saying that he's not worthy. I guess he didn't talk about his honor. Maybe he did. I don't know.
I don't think he talked about honor.
But yeah,
Similar.
it's like his self-worth is like just feeling pretty low.
Well, if we also come to the fact that maybe Sokka's just kind of in a low point anyway, like understanding that Azula and her cronies like took out Suki and her friends. I mean, again, we're understanding the fact that Sokka's not really processing anything. And so it's been kind of, I think he's been trying to hold it together this season, but we suffered a great loss at the end of season 2, and he hasn't really addressed Suki or Yue again, so.
Right, and I guess it's like you probably don't want to think too much into the future, but hopefully everyone's going to make it. He doesn't know if they're going to make it or his dad or... Anyway, okay.
The butler answers the door. The butler's name is Fat. Like, that's the name of the butler.
What?
F-A-T.
Great.
F-A-T is the butler's name.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay, I think... what do we think about the Swordmaster?
Piandao.
He's like kind of this like sexy, mysterious guy with this Batman voice. It's like, Sokka. Like, I don't know. It's really intense.
So Piandao's voice actor is Robert Patrick, who voiced the T-1000 in Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
You got
Wow.
another example?
So that was my one example. He was the bad guy in Terminator 2.
Okay.
Really?
Okay.
Can't
Tr-
So Sifu Kisu, the guy who is the martial arts consultant on the show, they finally modeled a character after him, and they chose Piandao to be the one they chose after Sifu Kisu. So that's kind of what Sifu Kisu looks like.
Oh, good.
Sexy and mysterious.
Those eyebrows.
And I'm a big eyebrow guy, so
Watch out, Troy.
I think Piandao was very quick to take on Sokka, and I thought it was really interesting that Fat the butler. Which I just love saying that. I think after being warned that Piandao rejects almost everybody, I mean, there really wasn't anything that Sokka did or said that made me think that even just him bumbling, like it wasn't anything special to make him worthy of being trained.
But I think if you're just that idea, like, oh, I traveled so far to come and get trained with you, and I'm the best where I come from, or whatever. And I think if you can be more humble in that approach, be like, I don't know much, but I'm here, and whatever. So I mean, I believed it.
Yeah, so when he walks into the room and Piandao's like, all right, Sokka, tell me your story. And Sokka's like, well, I've been all over the world. And Piandao's like, oh, here we go. And Sokka's like, I realize I am not worthy. I don't have any special capabilities. And Piandao's like, you're not selling yourself too much right now. But I'm like, I think Sokka had to create a pitch because when he was working with the Kyoshi warriors at first, he goes, I have to warn you, ladies, I'm a very special warrior. And then they just beat him up right off the bat.
And so that's great that we've seen that character growth from Sokka.
That was a good character growth. I was impressed with his sales pitch. The fact that he's one of the few people that says he's been around the world, yet he hasn't really learned any capabilities. And so the sword master's like, you're humble, you come here to learn, I might have a spot for you.
Okay, well, that's fair. I get that. Because, yeah, if you were to come in hot saying, like, you've been all around the world, obviously the next thing Piandao probably expects him to say is, like, oh, and I've learned from everybody, but now I'm going to learn from you.
So now you see why I would say that Aang is a terrible student.
Well, I don't think Aang comes in like that.
He does come like that.
Yeah, no, Aang's a cocky
He's
little
totally
rat.
like, I'm the Avatar. I'm the Airbender. You need to train me.
What's this accent?
I don't know.
I'm the Avatar. You have to train me now, man.
Okay, but then after Sokka and Pio,
Pio?
I don't know.
Piandao.
Okay, yeah. After they have their little sword fight. Oh, no. Because, right, they, like, make the sword after they get the crew to move the meteorite.
Well, they're training for a day, and Piandao's like, hey, so, you're good to go. Like, let's make you a sword, man. Was he trying to rush Sokka out of there?
I think so. I thought
Maybe Sokka's like, we're on a schedule.
I was waiting for him to do a sales pitch, like, and you can have this special sword for like
$9.99.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you thought that was gonna be like a turn?
Yeah,
Kind of weird. Yeah, he doesn't sell. I mean, there's
Yeah, I don't know.
no money is being exchanged.
That's
no.
fine.
And was I the only one that when they took a meteorite from space, rolled it up the hill,
As opposed to a meteorite from Earth.
yes, forged it into a sword? Am I the only one that was half expecting, like, when Sokka first strikes with that sword, for that thing to, like, just either blow into ashes or to, like, some magical thing to happen?
Well, I assumed that it was like a combo. I didn't think it was just the meteorite.
I would imagine I would be very wary to create a sword out of meteorite. But I'm assuming they kind of probably melded it with like other types of metal. But maybe it is just the meteorite. Because all meteorites are composed of different types of elements and pieces of rock. So maybe it was a really good, maybe it was a really quality meteorite that they got. Also, I take grievance with the fact that they made a sword in like a day, because typically in Chinese and Japanese culture, to create like a really nice quality sword, it takes months, maybe up to a year to like really get, because you have to like forge it over and over again, and you have to, it's a big process. Like our knives, we have really nice cutlery knives. Yeah, they have to fold that metal over and over again. That's how you get like those ripples in it.
Yeah, well, as we know, we're on the express train.
Oh, yeah.
Here in the Avatar.
We can make a sword really fast. We can open your chakras really fast.
Yeah.
Anything you want.
Yes.
Let's talk about the landscape really quick, because we talked about in the last episode about how there's like the comparisons of the Fire Nation to Japan. And I think as an island and kind of as a society, there is that kind of comparison with Japanese culture and the Fire Nation. But the creators took a trip to another island country to get inspiration for the Fire Nation. Where do we think they went?
Fiji.
Switzerland.
New Zealand.
Switzerland is not an island.
Sorry.
New Zealand.
Iceland. So they took a lot of inspiration from Iceland, and so the waterfall that they go and see Piandao take Sokka to, that is like, it's pretty much drawn exactly like this. It's called like, I have it written down, the Gullfoss waterfall in Iceland is what that is. So there's apparently a lot of like Iceland inspiration in like the rural
Oh my
areas.
god, that totally makes sense. Iceland is a beautiful country.
There we go.
My god, it's a gorgeous country.
Have you been surprised that the Fire Nation is like a pretty country?
No? Because of how greedy and gluttonous they are?
Well, I don't know.
Trey can't be surprised.
You'd think that a society that'd be greedy and gluttonous would be coming from a place that's like not super great, and they'd be like, I'm going to take your resources, and we're
Right. Like that maybe their lives are so, like, everyone's impoverished or something, and we're going to go force our, try to take over these other
there's
areas.
the pretty side, and then there's the ugly side. The ugly side of the Fire Nation is who has to pay for the expenses of how they make their colony or their nation so amazing.
So let's go back to when they're forging the sword. You get a shot of Piandao kind of looking with pride onto Sokka. And in the background, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but there's a full moon. So I don't know, it's like Yue like watching over him as he makes his sword. I don't know, it was just like an interesting thing because they've been very, very deliberate about any time the moon has been used as imagery. This one kind of felt like it was kind of shoehorned in. But yeah, it was definitely like a full moon behind them.
Well, so I guess at the end, when he's kind of just like knighting Sokka.
You messed things up in a very special way.
Yeah, that was a lovely line. But then like Sokka just looks so, I don't know.
He's like disappointed in himself, I think, for like getting this knowledge through treachery.
Right, and he did feel like undeserving and not worthy. Which, Troy, what did you think when he like took out a sword after Sokka drops the truth bomb and says he's actually not from the Fire Nation and says he's from the Water Tribe?
Oh man, it would have been amazing if
We just killed him, just cut him right in half.
Bye, Sokka.
If Piandao actually would have been like, "It's okay, I'm not a Fire Nation spy."
Hey, you're cool here. But Fat, on the other end, don't talk to Fat.
Don't talk to that Fat. No.
Don't talk to that Fat.
No,
Don't-
his name is Fat, Troy. He doesn't say don't talk to that Fat.
Don't talk to that Troy. Talk to this Troy.
No, I was like, Sokka, what are you doing? But I'm like, oh my god, if the writers want to get genius, they could just been like, Piandao actually doesn't work with the Fire Nation. He's actually like undercover for like one of the other nations. That would have been a perfect time to drop that joke or that line.
That joke.
Did you think that he was gonna turn him in, or how did you think that episode? Did you know that he was just kind of wanted to duke it out with Sokka
I didn't.
to continue his training?
I thought if he's gonna do a fight, I didn't think it was gonna be a sword fight. I thought Piandao was probably gonna like blast him with fire. Either that or turn around and be like, Water Tribe people.
I think
No
so. It's interesting
honor.
that both Sokka and Katara have like battled their masters.
Mm-hmm.
So Katara was battling what?
I was just saying, and it was good that Sokka, put his hand up and was like, "Whoa, guys," because obviously the crew was like, "Let's take him down."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Sokka feels like he needs to earn this thing, earn the right to have like had this knowledge, and like kind of getting away all of these lies that he had to put up over the past 48 hours to this guy.
I want to point out the fact that the next scene is the best part. Katie can't stop laughing at the fact that Batman / Piandao / the T-1000 villain guy cannot stop complimenting Sokka. And I'm like, at first I thought the guy was mad that Sokka's Water Tribe, but no, he's actually trying to push him harder and harder and harder. Like,
Good.
Very resourceful.
good.
Use your terrain.
yes, use your terrain, use your weapon, use this, use that against me. Very smart.
Oh, the dirt kind of hurts in my eyes, but good job, Sokka.
And then he's
I
all
can't
blind.
see, but I can still hear you.
And then Sokka's just trying to
Tiptoe away.
snip. There goes a twig, and so I was like, "Oh man,
What do we think about Sokka like piecing out into the bamboo?
I love that part.
And he's like cutting the bamboo, and Piandao comes through, and he's just like,
nice use of your terrain, Sokka."
yes, use the natural environment as a fighter.
And then I was expecting when he pulled on that bamboo, I thought it would have been excellent had Sokka defeated Piandao in a sword fight by whacking him with a piece of bamboo and knocking him out.
Yeah, I definitely thought that's where that was going also, even though...
Like, because Sokka can be that clumsy at times. Like, he wants to be a sword fighter, but he's got better use with his terrain. So, wham, right comes the bamboo.
So we got this guy with swords. We know another character who somehow is very, very proficient with swords. Are we assuming Piandao, as the greatest sword master in the Fire Nation, taught Zuko?
There's a chance.
Oh, come on, you guys.
It would make sense.
Have you seen Zuko with swords?
Yeah.
He's insane.
Double swords.
Well, still.
Piandao's one sword.
Well, Piandao taught Sokka with one sword.
Yes.
Why don't you imagine he's probably well-versed in all ways of the
there's
sword?
There's definitely a high chance that he taught Zuko. But I feel like Zuko might have been like, no, teach me with two swords. And Piandao's like, no, one master, one sword.
Okay, but what did you think after, when Sokka pretty much lost, right, at the end?
But he did lose. He definitely lost.
Yeah. I mean, what was that moment? Did you know that it was going to be over, or was it going to like
nobody
take him
knew
out?
when it was gonna be over. I just looked at that and I'm just like, huh. All right, so they make Sokka lose. All right, what's the writer's next play here? And it was just, I don't know, it was definitely enlightening for me to see something from the Fire Nation actually be like, "You have finished your training, Sokka." I'm like, "Did he?" And he goes, "By the way, I can tell you guys were Water Tribe from the moment I saw you. Sokka, terrible name." Or what was his? Did he have a cover name?
No, Sokka did not have a cover name
He's like, you should go by Lee.
there's a million Lees.
There's a million Lees.
Okay, so yeah, let's talk about that because when they leave, Fat comes out and gives him like a little baggie, and it's like,
That fat guy came out.
Piandao wants.
Wait, and he calls out and he's like, oh yeah, hey, Avatar, like, duh. Obviously, I know it's you. Which is interesting because it's the first person that's been able to recognize, who obviously knows that the Avatar is alive. Because assuming
And
that
still alive, right?
you assume that he knows, like the whole world knows that Aang is dead.
Yes.
And so it's interesting. But we just kind of brush over that.
Yeah, why do we think that he knows who Aang is? Like, he can recognize he's the Avatar just based on what?
Well, we'll assume that's because the Fire Nation's
Fat
obsessed.
came up to behind.
So yeah, when Fat comes out, when they're leaving, gives him a little baggie, and inside is a White Lotus tile.
Yep.
For Pai Show.
Who do we know that's a part of the Order of the White Lotus?
Ripped Uncle Iroh.
Okay, so Piandao obviously is giving like the viewers like this quick like little Easter egg that Piandao, we're assuming, is a part of the Order of the White Lotus, this secret society in the world that's like basically trying to like keep peace and share like the knowledge of the world. And so I'm thinking like Piandao like has had to like have some knowledge of what's going on. He's probably been in contact with Iroh. You know, Iroh's probably like, hey, if you, I mean, I could see Iroh like sending Piandao information and like all the people a part of the White Lotus information of like,
Right, here's the Avatar and these kids or whatever.
yeah, and if you see them, help them out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so if he knew that there was like some Water Tribe kid that would be around, like how often do we think the Water Tribe is just like hanging around the Fire Nation?
Right.
And so who knows if Iroh gave him the names? But yeah, this Water Tribe kid comes in. He's like, my name is Sokka. Piandao could be like, oh, dang. I think this is the kid who's with the Avatar.
Ah.
Or the other option is that Piandao, being a part of the White Lotus, is so well versed in other cultures, he could understand like how to identify people from all over the world. And he could be like, oh, this looks like an airbender. Obviously, this is the Avatar. You know, just things like that. Or like the blind Beifong girl, who's this famous. Well, I guess no one really knew that they had a daughter, so never mind.
Well, right. Yeah. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, so I think that could have been like one of the reasons that he taught Sokka. Like, oh, the Avatar needs help. I will give it to him.
And it was like, oh, here's this tile. Something to remember him by.
It's nice.
Makes me feel like we'll never see him again.
I know.
But I love that he said, knowledge of the arts belongs to us all. Oh, that was a great line.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like the art of the sword. Like, it doesn't need to belong to the Fire Nation just because they have the greatest swordsmen. You know, just because your country or where you live is home to like the greatest of something. If someone comes with a pure heart seeking that knowledge, yeah, you should give it to them.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on to cut Iroh.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
It just, I was so bothered by the guard. It was like, look at you. I was just like, get out of here.
You ugly scum of the earth, you crazy old man.
No, it was so annoying.
I swear that guard was eating a potato at one point. Like when Iroh was like, he was like, ugh, I'm not done with my raw russet potato.
Yeah, but Troy and Uncle Ira, like same thing. Do those push-ups with those claps.
Do those push-ups in a handstand.
No. I do push-ups and then I sit down and clap.
Jeez.
So when Iroh like takes his shirt off and like the pillows fall out and he looks like a Greek god, you know, he doesn't have any marking or any scar from when Azula shot him in the heart. So I was kind of upset about that.
Oh, I didn't realize she shot him in the heart. I just thought she shot him in the arm.
Well, right. Like, he got shot like in like the chest, and then in bitter work, he's like all bandaged up. So it's like his shirt's kind of off, and I imagine he would have some sort of mark on there from, again, getting shot in the heart. Sorry. So why is Iroh training, Troy?
why is he training? Well, I think he's training because he's just so pissed off at Zuko, who I've written
I'm gonna kick your ass if I ever see you again.
You come visit me one more time.
No, his betrayal, his deceivement, he's just full of piss and vinegar now, and I think he lost his tea shop, he lost his dreams.
Oh, the tea
because
shop.
Zuko refused to stand next to him. I'm like, I want Iroh to get out of jail and just
Lay down some thunder.
So
you want Iroh to physically beat up Zuko?
I think the kid deserves it.
Do you think that's in Iroh's character, though?
No,
I mean, would that really fix anything?
of course it wouldn't.
Thank you for
There
the
you go.
admission, Troy.
Buddy, it would make me give it a standing ovation.
But yeah, I mean, it would be funny. Listen here, you little bee. Yeah, but no, I don't think
Zuko's
so.
in a headlock. Iroh's like,
I tried to be nice and encouraging.
for 2 whole seasons, and this is what you did for me?
Oh, God.
All right, so one last thing is I want to talk about Toph. Like, Toph in this episode very explicitly is like, I'm into Sokka. Can we talk about that?
Just that she misses Sokka because he's funny.
She was totally blushing. She's like, oh,
Yeah, because that's how we have to do in these, they're girl characters.
Gotta have a boy character.
Everyone's got to be crushing on each other.
I gotta say, I think that all the characters blush about the same amount. I
Not as
feel
much
like,
as me.
Huh?
What?
Okay.
Don't laugh at that. Okay.
I do think, like, Aang and Katara's relationship isn't feeling quite so... It's feeling pretty brother and sister, pretty sibling-esque in these last couple episodes.
Good. It's been awkward. I'm like, shut it down.
No, they had that great moment in the cave.
Whatever.
And the other great moment in the cave.
Well,
Get them to a cave, man.
no, get them out of the cave.
No, they need to be in a cave.
Troy.
Getting the bossing say.
Yeah, so they can do the Bossing Say ballet or whatever.
Anyway, I don't know.
So do we think...
Toph needs to be respected. And I don't know if Sokka would respect Toph.
What, because she's blind? That's rude.
No, because Sokka's immature and doesn't have it together and crushes on everybody and he's annoying.
Sokka is very immature, and his immaturity was shown a lot in this episode. Like, he was biting the material for the sword. He put ink on his face and, like, rubbed it around the piece of paper.
He drew the waterfall with, like, crayon.
In mountains. Oh, God. Poor Sokka. So do you think him being a sword master now is going to fix anything?
He's gonna tell Iroh to stop beating up Zuko for a minute, so that way they can have like a duel of swords.
Maybe Iroh will become, no, here we go. Maybe Sokka will become Iroh's new nephew, and Iroh will take Sokka in.
Well, that's cute.
That'd be
sweet.
nice.
Aw.
Fan fiction.
All right, we'll get to right into that. And so next episode, we watch The Beach and The Avatar and the Fire Lord. So those are our next 2 episodes.
Whoa.
All right, kids, until next
Things are heating
time,
up.
grab your meteor sword and go off into battle. Yip, yip.
Yep.
Yip, yip.
You hear that? That was Bruce Wayne.
Yes, Sokka, use your terrain. Yes, the sword is sharp. Don't hit me with it. Where is she?
Whoa. Martha?